Big progress in negotiations reveal that you might get a $1,200 second stimulus check if you are a dependent. Hey everybody, this is LALATE. Thanks for joining us for the debut of Afternoon's LALATE, a 4-block programming block in which we deal with the check, hazard pay, FPUC, and rent assistance. This video is about the check, and we have big news minutes ago, really where this negotiations are going between the Democrats and the Republicans, and apparently third groups. More about that in a second. First, the check. Overnight, new indications suggest that the Republicans are backing off on that reduction of the dependence amount to $500 and actually may agree to $1,200 as a second stimulus check for dependents. As you recall, the Republicans proposed $500, which is what was in the first stimulus package for minors, but agreed to $500 for both minor and adult dependents on a second stimulus check. The Democrats said, no, our proposal is $1,200 for all dependents. Well, new great news today suggests that the Republicans are leaning to agreeing to $1,200 for all dependents check. That is great news. The second great news is that Republicans apparently want to get this done by the end of this week. That is exceptional news. They are proposing to get this all finalized by the end of this week and on the table of the White House, of the President of the White House, and signed into law early next week. Really, really encouraging, great news. Finally, under that timeline, they're proposing to get the second stimulus check funds to you in mid-August, which is far earlier than anything that we had ever predicted. They want it to come in the fastest manners possible so that you will have the funds by mid-August at the earliest, at the latest, late August. Really, really exciting, great news. But there's a lot of twists today. And minutes ago, a leading Republican in the Midwest introduced the hamburger bill to encourage more Americans to go into McDonald's and buy Filet-O-Fish on Wednesday afternoons. That's literally where we're going at this. We have the HEROES Act and we have the HEALS Act, and we actually have more second stimulus packages that were introduced today as well. I am not joking. So I am getting to what the hell this mess is formulating. First, negotiations continued overnight, and literally it depends on which person you ask and which hour of the day and how they answer the question. Yet this morning on Mornings on LLA, we detailed that there are 4 negotiating parties. On the Democrat side, it's Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and on the Republican side are Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows, who's the chief of staff this week until he gets fired or someone else replaces him with the White House. They're negotiating, and this morning they had said that there was real progress and it was promising negotiations. Well, hours later, they were asked by news reporters to again describe the situation, and they said they're very, very far apart. So it literally depends on what hour of the day and what coffee or cream they're having to describe the tenseness of their negotiations. Minutes ago, Nancy Pelosi said that Mitch McConnell, who's not part of the negotiations, and his claim that the bills will ultimately be a line in the sand if he does not get liability insurance, she said is absolutely insane, and that will ultimately kill the bill if he really vows that is the situation. So she apparently is going to go to the mat on that insane provision that Mitch McConnell has put in there that Steve Mnuchin and no one else is really endorsing at this point. The second stimulus check would arrive in your pocket in mid-August if you receive your benefits on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, or railroad benefits by electronic means on a monthly basis. So if you're receiving your benefits by debit card or by electronic ACH, you would be really the first people to get the second stimulus check. I mean, this is really, really great news. Steve Mnuchin did say overnight he wants this to come in the fastest manner possible, and he includes electronic delivery as the fastest manner possible. The other group of people who would get it really immediately are people who are not on benefits but use electronic means for purposes of paying their taxes to the IRS. Whether they're paying taxes to the IRS or getting refunds to the IRS knows your bank account. So those people who are really set up for electronic means would get the funds first. The next group would be late August, and those are the people who do things by paper check, like benefits, Social Security checks, railroad benefits. They do things by paper check, or people that simply have not provided a physical account number to the IRS anytime recently. So that's really great news. Meantime, the amount of the check, as you know, both parties agree upon a lot of great things. So they're agreeing that everyone on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and railroad benefits get a check. They're agreeing that every non-dependent in the United States gets a check, $1,200. Really clear and great news. One check is what they're talking about. Second, they all agree that all dependents will get a second stimulus check. Remember, this is different than the first stimulus package, which only paid a check to minor dependents and did not pay a check to adult dependents. Gone is that horrible rule, and both Republicans and Democrats agree that all dependents will get a second stimulus check. But what amount? And that is where it fell on Monday. The HEROES Act Democrats had proposed $1,200 to all dependents, but the HEALS Act proposed $500 to all dependents. Well, LALATE reported on LALATE Mornings this morning, which has been a blockbuster viewership. Thank you for tuning in for that show, that Republicans are apparently considering really going to $1,200. Ultimately, there's a couple of reasons why. First, a lot of Republicans are up for re-election this fall, and to suggest that adult dependents who are generally about 40 or 50 or 60 years of age and are on their children's tax return are only valued, less than 50% of someone younger, that they're valued at $500, not $1,200, is not a very good position to go into the voting booths this fall. A lot of Republicans don't like it and have expressed their concern to Steve Mnuchin. They think it's political suicide. It's a very bad idea. Apparently the White House doesn't like it as well. And here is another rub about the White House. I know a lot of you have talked about how Donald Trump 2 weeks ago said he wants to give you more than $1,200. He said that the Democrats' proposal of $1,200 was not generous enough and that he wanted to give you a more generous amount. But he did it on Monday. He gave you actually less for the purposes of minor dependents. Well, here's something I have to add that came out minutes ago, and I'm really just, speechless. I'm really, rarely do I get speechless. And the following comment came out of Donald Trump's mouth a few minutes ago. He said that the Democrats in the second stimulus package are doing nothing for rent eviction moratoriums, and that the White House is the only one in a second stimulus package that is doing anything to protect Americans from being displaced from their homes by eviction. Yeah, you know the answer to what I just said. The Democrats have an eviction moratorium provision in it. Steve Mnuchin and Larry Kudlow on Sunday said that their Republican package would have an eviction moratorium, and when it debuted on Monday, it did not have it in there. So the White House, does the president think that he has an eviction moratorium in his own Republican bill? Because he does not. It causes a lot of concern that a lot of people may not be abreast to what has been proposed for certain parties. Now, here's the other rub that's very important to understand as we go into Thursday. You have heard about the HEROES Act and the HEALS Act. Well, there's actually other acts out there. You're like, oh no, Ally, like what's going on? Yes. Minutes ago, Mitt Romney introduced a second stimulus package that is not comprehensive, but he wants to be included in the second stimulus package. It is to extend and protect Social Security for millions and millions of Americans. He wants it included in the second stimulus package. Other Republicans as well apparently are urging that their bills, like Portman and Brady, want their bills introduced and merged into the second stimulus package. Democrats want their bills introduced into the second stimulus package. So while you may think about only HEROES and HEALS acts, there apparently is a lot of infighting by both parties to get a lot of other bills merged into these two mega bills. Boy, there you go. So where are these negotiations? Well, the president told reporters before he left for Texas on Wednesday, we're going to work on evictions so that people don't get evicted. Well, why is it not in your bill? We'll work on the payments for the people, and the rest of it, we're so far apart, we really don't care. We really don't care. Payments for the people? There's only one stimulus check that's proposed for the people on the Republican plan. There are more comments that came out later today. No bill will pass the Senate that doesn't have liability protection in it, says Mitch McConnell to CNBC today. Well, Nancy Pelosi came back and said, that is crazy. If you are literally going to hold up the entire American economy because of your liability provision, this was Nancy Pelosi's response, that he is littering it with corporate giveaways and presidential pet projects, which of course included a $3 billion FBI building, which has nothing to do with COVID-19. McConnell, on the other hand, said Democrats would rather be political issues keep alive than find bipartisan ways to resolve them. This is after someone who says he's not going to negotiate about his liability insurance. He just, he talks out of one mouth and speaks out of another ear. Schumer tuned in as well. Time is short. Speaker Pelosi and I will be back negotiating with the table with the White House later today. It's time for our Republican colleagues to roll up their sleeves and get serious at this. Now, I want to explain to you where the negotiations are because this is very ultimately important. You have Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell and Mark Meadows, chief of staff, negotiating. But here's the rub. Apparently, everyone that's not in that room is really not happy as well. Top Republicans who are up for election this fall apparently think that a lot of provisions that are proposed in the HEALS Act will cause them to be unelectable this fall. They think they're not giving enough to their constituents, to their citizens of their state, and they are worried that the Republicans are going to kill their re-election bids. Democrats, on the other hand, are very worried that they're going into fall elections, and if nothing is delivered for any purpose, that they could be in trouble of not being re-elected as well. President Donald Trump actually made this situation even more peculiar minutes ago when, after saying that he wants to have eviction protection in a second stimulus package, which he does not include, he said that he wants to ensure, and I'm not going to be able to quote this correctly, but he wants to ensure that suburban America is not littered or bothered by low-income housing in their community. A very, very troubling comment, and it comes after another comment by Ben Carson, and it's a response to new proposals by Joe Biden. It ultimately shows that there's not a lot of focus by the correct parties in getting the second stimulus package approved, that they're focused on a lot of other stuff. But where are we? Well, last night, when Steve Mnuchin emerged from the second night of negotiations with Nancy and Chuck, he said it was a very good meeting. It was very promising. He said we're showing great progress, and we're shooting for this Friday. Of course, this is Wednesday. That literally means he's thinking he can get this done in 48 hours. The president's preference is to make sure we send out direct payments quickly so that they're in August. Ultimately, they can't go out quickly if the entire bill is being railroaded by a person like the guy from Kentucky who says he wants liability insurance in there, and if he doesn't get it, he's not giving anyone their stimulus check. Yes, that's actually what Mitch McConnell has said. But in the same breath, we have these people who are saying, ideally, it would be almost as quick as the folks who are benefiting through direct deposit who could get the second stimulus fund. So that's really great news. There's a lot of great indication today that people can get the second stimulus funds by direct deposit incredibly fast, faster than the first time around, and literally within a day or days of the passage of the bill. This is really, really incredible. So let's say, for example, under Steve Mnuchin's timeline, he proposes that the president signs the bill into law next Monday or Tuesday. He's suggesting that the funds could go out, Tuesday or Wednesday, and you can get the funds Thursday, Friday, or Saturday of next week. That is what he's hoping. That is what he's suggesting. Now, ultimately, a lot of the viewers here on this channel have to size up whether you believe the statements or not. My job is to report them and for you to decide whether you believe them or not. I have my personal opinion. My personal opinion is the following. As to the check, and I'll be covering the other issues later today, I think that you're going to see $1,200 across the board for everyone. I don't think you're going to see this $500 watered down. I think that there's going to be a move to really get things out quickly. It behooves and helps the president to get funds out quickly. Why? Because ultimately, if you are sending people money, it helps you for the polls. Last time when the president issued his first round of payments, his numbers jumped. I mean, they went up about 3-4%. He wants that jump. I detailed earlier today that in about 7 key states, the margin of spread between Biden and Trump is about anywhere from 4 to 3% with Trump behind. So imagine if Trump gets those checks out in about 2 weeks, the funds out in about 2 weeks, that spread could be a dead race. That is why the president sees the checks as so critical to being in contention for a fight with Biden in the fall. Now, the issue is whether or not the Democrats will use that in ammunition not to get it done or to get it done. There's a reverse thinking you can go through in your mind about all those permutations. I'm not going to do that right now. But ultimately, the question is, how soon could you get the funds? Mid-August. How late would you likely get the funds? Late August. Will you get the funds with your first stimulus check? No, they're not coming together. So if you did not get your first stimulus check and you're eligible for the first stimulus check, you need to go to the IRS's website and go in there and click on all the information to track your check to ensure that you receive your check. So they're not sending back checks. It's not like, back payments are coming together. Last, a lot of people have asked me about multiple checks. What's happening with multiple checks? Well, you've essentially been screwed over by Congress. Congress proposed multiple checks in the spring. They didn't. When they went to finalize the first stimulus package, gone was the word multiple, and they did one. So you never got a check for the month of March, April, May. You got one single check. And then when we came into the fall, they talked about multiple checks. 6 $2,000 checks. Not in the permutations again. But really great news that Steve Mnuchin has said that the president is in favor of multiple checks, is in favor of multiple stimulus packages. The question is really when. So if you had a second stimulus check go out in August, and let's be sarcastic and cynical about the situation, you have an October election. Could you get a third stimulus check out in around September, no less than 30 days after this stimulus check? And would that really help the president's reelection? Yes and yes. So under a cynical point of view, you could think that the president may want to issue yet a third stimulus check to you to really give him just that extra 3 points he needs to overtake Biden in the polls. Really fascinating. Coming up later today on Afternoons with LALATE, hazard pay, FPUC, and big improvements, as you saw, about rent assistance. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, stay positive, stay motivated, stay smiling, and stay with LA for more.